Get close to the fire and be welcome to Camp Eldritch, a pod camp where we can discuss our favorite stories and why they exist. I am Camp Counselor Noah,
And I am Camp Counselor Nebulord.
and today we will be finalizing our first trilogy of movies with Godzilla Minus One.
You got there, Godzilla.
Godzilla!
I love
Just keep
Godzilla.
it. Just keep it.
I'm
Listeners,
keeping it.
just know that we're filming this 5 hours in.
Yeah. These have been a continuous recording.
So forget my Godzillas. But yeah, no. Minus One. Godzilla Minus One. It was made to celebrate the 70th anniversary of Godzilla,
Oh, okay.
or around that. And also because Japan was like, well, the Godzilla American movies did very, very well. We're not gonna let them
Yeah,
be the last ones to make Godzilla movies.
yeah, let's show them how it's done.
Yeah. And honestly, they did show. I really loved this movie.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. For a lot of reasons actually, and I think partially because I enjoy that period of time, as weird as it is to say. A lot of tragedy and a lot of horrible stuff happened at this period of time, but it's a very interesting time for cinema.
Yeah.
And you don't, I think now you see it a lot more, but you don't often see a lot of movies about Japan in this time period. Now again, you're seeing them more and more now. Like I think what are ones I can think of? Like I think Unbreakable was a famous one. You have like Letters of Iwo Jima. You start to see a bit more about like the Japanese experience of World War II. But this one in particular, I think, echoed a lot of sentiments for the standard Japanese population. To touch on what we talked about before, there was a lot of atrocities that were performed by the Japanese army. And I think the movie does two things. One, unfortunately, it doesn't touch on it, which I'm not too surprised at, because as we know, Japan has kind of a history of not talking about it, which is unfortunate. But it does very much put under a microscope the idea of a population coming out of a propagandized world. Like a kind of
it's a disillusion.
Exactly. It's the disillusion of the Japanese Empire, of the honor in battle, the imperial whatever, the imperial dogma that was very much shoved down their throat.
And many Japanese people welcomed the American occupation because they were hungry for a change. They were not happy as the US. They were just happy that it was a change.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I think we're seeing that Japan, and it's interesting because this movie is directed, written, and the special effects are led by Takashi Yamazaki. He's a triple threat.
Oh shit! Okay.
And he's a guy who has made a lot of World War II movies, and in the past has been criticized for not being critical enough. So this movie almost feels like him taking the first step into maybe portraying the reality of what World War II was more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Makes me curious. I would love to see in Minus Zero maybe a bigger reckoning with other tragedies. Maybe take into account the critiques that South Korea had of the movie. Because, of course, if South Korea sees a Godzilla movie in which the hero is a kamikaze, they're going to feel uncomfortable because it's impossible not to.
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is these, like, as harrowing as it is to be, and you can think about it like from multiple perspectives. Like you can see from a human point of view, you look at being forced to enlist in an army and told you have to then your whole entire job is to fly a plane into something and blow up, and that's your job. That's horrifying, but it's equally horrifying being the people who are getting fucking blown up. So it's like I guess I'd compare it to maybe if I was someone maybe in France or in Poland and I saw a movie that was a bit more sympathetic to the Germans in that point. Like you can certainly see like you're in a
Yeah,
regime that is forcing people to do things they don't want to do, and they're heavily propagandized, into believing certain things. But at the
it's
same
hard.
time, it's strange. It's strange, and
Yeah.
it's also, I would not hold it against anyone who would find it distasteful. You know?
And I think it's healthy to have those discussions. It can only make things better if we're able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I really believe that this movie was the author reckoning with what really World War II Japan is. Now, I'm finally going to tell you about the connection to Princess Mononoke because when I read that, I got super excited
Oh
for
my
you.
god. Okay.
So, in researching what inspired this movie, I found a interview on a website called The Verge, in which the author points to inspirations of the movie that might not be obvious upon first seeing it. One of them is COVID-19, but specifically how disillusioned he felt that the government was not doing enough for people.
Oh.
This was written at the height of the COVID pandemic. It made it slower, but he felt that Japan was not answering fast enough to the issue or was not helping enough. And while he says yes, later on things got better, he felt like the Japanese government was not helping citizens enough. And the other one, he specifically brings uh, Hayao Miyazaki's Princess Mononoke as an inspiration.
Hmm.
Specifically talks about the more Shintoistic part of Princess Mononoke, in which spirits represent intangible things like nature and natural forces, and how the battle against nature and how precious it is inspire a bit of Godzilla. Godzilla is a force of nature. It's something that is an answer to what humans have been doing to each other on the planet. So I thought you would appreciate a lot that inspiration. And once you say it, I do kind of see it.
To be fair, yeah. Like I'll be honest, because again, Godzilla in this movie, and you see it at the very beginning. They mention it. It's not really much of a spoiler. They do mention that like Godzilla has existed. Like they
Mm-hmm.
they they harken back to the original movie where they say that the Odo Islanders knew that Godzilla existed and they tried to appease him. So the the main character arrives on the island, and the aircraft mechanics who are stationed there say the locals believe in a monster called Godzilla. So it I can see what you mean. It's this is a thing that has existed for a long time, and is appearing now due to what's happening in the world, but it's always existed. It wasn't caused by humanity. It's something that's existed longer than humanity, kind of so to speak, in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
some yeah.
yeah. It's very very interesting to think about it that way.
Mm-hmm. No, I'll say I also, as just overall, I also really enjoyed how much of this film was at sea as well.
Yeah.
Because yeah, Japan's an island culture, and Godzilla
Mm-hmm.
always, like, in the fiction of Godzilla, he always came from the sea and lived in the sea. So it was interesting to see a lot of the film take place in that, whereas instead of it just being entirely on land.
It's fun because the author mentions being inspired by Jaws, the movie,
Interesting.
and
Okay.
there's some scenes of like in which Godzilla does look like Bruce the shark, just like peeking his head out.
Yeah, and his fins, like the fins
Mm-hmm.
piercing, breaking through the surface of the water, just like Jaws' big fin would in the movie. Yeah, okay, I can see that. Very
Which
very
in a
cool.
way, yeah, it's kind of cool because OG Godzilla inspired Spielberg doing Jurassic Park, and Spielberg's Jaws inspired this Godzilla,
Wow. So the shoulders of giants are standing on the shoulders of the giants that stood on its own
and a
shoulder.
shark in the middle.
So it's less of a tower, more of one of those, those balls. I guess they're just like crouching on each
Yeah,
other.
it's like Godzilla, shark, Godzilla, shark, Godzilla. But yeah, no, it's a very cool, it's a very cool fact, and I see it.
Yeah.
Should we go to talk about the movie?
Yeah. Let's jump in.
it starts with the movie telling us this are the few last days of the war, and we see our protagonist of Shikishima. I think this movie
Yes.
is way shorter on its scope than Shin Godzilla. It follows way less characters, and it's more centered on their emotions. That's why I think it works better for me.
Yes, it is from the get go. It's a much more personal story.
Yeah,
Like there is still scope, but like everything instead of it being, which is unlike the other two, instead of everything being destruction and then focuses in occasionally to show the impact from the very start. This is a very personal story,
yeah.
and then in the backdrop of utter destruction and the effects that has on our main protagonists. That's the way I view it. Where the I can I if you forgive me for saying might not even be accurate, but in the way I view it is Godzilla minus one is this micro story told in the backdrop of a macro story versus
Yeah.
the other two, which are very much a macro story with micro stories peppered in to hammer home the impact.
I think so. I think here it's it's about Godzilla and what Godzilla represents, but it's also about Shikishima's guilt and Shikishima learning to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Because we follow Shikishima, who is a kamikaze pilot who does not want to go through uh, with his mission.
Yeah.
He lands on the Odo Island, which serves as a base to fix the planes. And I like how the movie first shows us his bomb and then shows us his face, almost pointing out how the Japanese government saw this young man. Like they were weapons, they were not people.
Yes, exactly. Life was cheap for the Japanese military. To be fair, a lot of for most armies in World War II, life was very cheap, but it was very cheap for the Imperial Army. Like, and
It was
they do touch on that in the
awful.
movie, but yeah,
Yeah, and I like that you see Shikishima arrive. Wait, let me check because I think it's Sikishima or Shikishima.
I
Do you
think
have it written down?
I think it's Shikishima. Yeah.
Okay, so we have Shikishima who very clearly does not want to die. Is too scared, and we also meet a character who will become very important later. He's important at the beginning and at the end of the movie of Tachibana, who
Mm-hmm.
is the lead engineer on the island.
Yeah.
And he tells him, "Hey, your plane is okay. We could not see the problem." And he knows what Shikishima is doing, so he leaves and just lets him be. And another engineer actually approaches Shikishima and tells him, "I actually respect you. I don't know why we're sacrificing lives for a war we already lost."
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was a nice touch because it shows the reality, the very human reality of living in fucking in this imperial Japan is on like it's almost like he had to show a pretense of honor, like you abandoned your post, like, and then like how could you when he was kind of in front of the other guys, and then when they're in private he says, yeah, I completely understand why you did it. What's the point, you know? It,
Yeah, and and I think some people are confused because, like, oh, but then Tachibana is angry that he didn't sacrifice himself. And I don't think that's what Tachibana was angry at.
no,
It was angry he didn't fight, but fighting does not mean sacrifice. And that's, I think, what the whole movie is about.
yeah, so that's kind of in the next like scene because
Yeah.
Godzilla is probably introduced earlier here than any of the other movies, right?
Yes.
He's here in like the first 5 minutes, I think.
It's super quick.
Yeah, yeah. So
And I go ahead.
yeah, so actually, I was actually worried when I saw that. I was kind of like, oh, okay, they're showing Godzilla here, and he's also a very angry Godzilla. You know, like as weird as that
Yeah.
sounds, because
No,
before,
no. He's the meanest.
yeah, because
The other Godzillas felt more just a force of nature coming in.
yeah,
This Godzilla targeted.
yeah, he's literally biting individuals and squishing them and throwing them in the air, like he's attacking people. whereas Godzilla from the others, he kind of stomps on buildings and like we said
Mm-hmm.
before, it kills people as a consequence, but not as an intention. Here, he's literally going out of his way to kill people, um, which I thought was okay because I've heard some people say that there's a difference between actually that video you sent me was very interesting. The one of
Yeah.
Godzilla, American Godzilla is about the monster, and Japanese Godzilla is about the world, about the themes. And I was worried that we were gonna see the American Godzilla, where the
Yeah.
horror is the monster. Um, I was happy to see that wasn't the case, but you do kind of get the impression that this Godzilla is going to be much more of a threat to individual people versus just an existential threat. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. And I will put the video in our description so people can check it out because it's an amazing video. It's super short.
Yeah,
And like this podcast episode, Jesus Christ.
yeah. God.
But yeah, no, but I get your fear because it is very different, but I think the movie pulls it off by then abandoning Godzilla for a while.
Yes, it does. And honestly, I was there thinking like I would actually. So it makes sense what you told me that this director likes to talk about this time period because
Mm-hmm.
honestly the post firebomb Tokyo, um it made me it reminded me, I should say, of films like Grave of the Fireflies in that
Yeah.
way. You're seeing people who are like, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Actually, I think we missed an
It's
important
okay.
point.
It's okay. The reason Tachibana is so angry with Shikishima is because he asked him to shoot Godzilla to help them try to defeat it, but he freezes.
Yeah,
So to me, Tachibana was not angry that he was not willing to kill himself, but he was angry that he was not willing to fight.
yeah,
And
because his
the aftermath is brutal.
yeah, it is. That's where we see Godzilla completely uh killing, like, I think this it's about like, I think this is like the entire, yeah, this is the
Yeah,
entire this is the entire workforce that are on the island. These are non-combatants, they're just there to fix planes.
yeah, it's Tachibana uh, and the protagonist. They are the only ones who survive.
Yeah. um and yeah, you can understand because yeah, Tachibana is the soldier. He was trained, he knew
Shikishima.
how to use the guns, and he just froze. And now it turns out that like those guns wouldn't have done anything to Godzilla anyway, so it wouldn't have helped. He would have just been
No,
killed, but they didn't know that at the time, and also the the distraction would have allowed some more of the non-combatants to survive. Possibly, they might have been able to run away.
yeah,
So there is valid. I think he has some valid reasons to be annoyed at Koichi, but at the same time, I also understand why Koichi didn't fire. One, he was
no,
afraid, but two, because he said that when he was gonna go to the guns, he's like, I don't think this gun will do anything to this guy. Um, so that would have been in his head too before he fired. So
yeah. I think the movie is very good at making you understand why everyone's reacting the way they are reacting. Because, for
yeah,
example, the next scene you see that the protagonist Koichi has a letter from his parents asking him please to come back, and you realize that it was he wanted to go back to his family. He wanted to leave. But then you see Tachibana angrily giving him a bunch of photos, and it's the photos of the people who died there.
yeah,
And you see, like, okay, yeah, it's frustrating. And when we arrive to the firebomb Tokyo, you have a woman who's his neighbor berating him, like, if you had fought better, my children would be alive. And you know that she's wrong, but can you blame her finding someone to blame because she's dealing with like so much grief?
yeah. And this is the reality of the propagandized Japan. I think you see,
Yeah.
because you could be forgiven for not realizing. I think again, you're right. The movie does set the scene very very well, but I think someone watching it would be forgiven for thinking like, God, what's her problem? But the reality of the propaganda of Imperial Japan was that the only thing that can stop us is if our soldiers don't do our part, because we're so superior and because
Mm-hmm.
we have the fighting Bushido spirit, and that's all we need, you know. So there was a narrative at the time of, if a soldier didn't do their job, didn't do their utmost for the nation, then that's what would defeat us.
Yeah.
So
And
it makes sense why this woman, whose children have all just died from American bombings, to see a soldier coming back, 'cause after all, the whole populace has been told that soldiers need to do their jobs. If they don't, then disaster happens. Disasters happened. And a soldier's come
yeah,
back because he hasn't done his job in their eyes. So the rage makes sense, even if it is, fundamentally wrong. And you feel bad for Koichi. You can kind of understand the logic
yeah,
there that they had.
yeah. And it's what you were saying of Megaphone. Uh, this scene is haunting. The aftermath of the firebombing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is, yeah. Like that, the whole, like, this is Tokyo, and it looks like it's
Nothing.
completely just ramshackled. Like there's like the build people are making structures made of like wood to, well, actually they're always made of wood. Actually, I think about it.
Yeah, but
But you know what I mean. Like they making like structures out of like whatever they can find, and like there's scenes of like them barely being able to keep the rain out, which the rain in Japan is very intense. Um, yeah, it's a very, you see the aftermath of the destruction of the firebombing kind of firsthand there, and I think it's very interesting. And like you mentioned, there's a long time when Godzilla doesn't pop up again, and it's just the aftermath of,
it's the rebuilding. It's the
yeah, the rebuilding, the trying to find work, the people struggling to find food, even so people were starving to death
Mhm.
at this period of
Yeah,
time. And
because that's how we kind of meet or I would say second most important character. Um,
mm-hmm,
Koichi's trying to get food because he's hungry,
mm-hmm,
and he hears of a man screaming "thief, thief, thief!" And for some reason, Koichi sees a young woman with something on her hands. They're screaming "thief!" and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna stop her because that's who I have to fight right now." And she's
mm-hmm.
like, "You know what? Thank you," and gives him a baby and just books it. Kill boss, gatekeep,
Give baby.
gaslight. Give baby, yes. The four keys. Gaslight, give baby. And you see him confused and he's about to abandon the baby because he's like, oh, what the fuck is going on? But he can't. And I think that's the movie also telling us, like, Koichi's not selfish, he's just scared. And shouldn't he be?
I would be. I'd do the same thing. If I was told to be a kamikaze, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'm flying home. Okay.
I was like, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck these guys.
Um, so so he doesn't abandon the baby, and we eventually have the woman meet him again, and she introduces herself as Noriko, and the baby is Akiko.
Mm-hmm.
She's not actually Akiko's mother, not biologically. She just found her as the biological mother of Akiko was dying, and begged her to take care of her. And she just had lost her parents, and she didn't want the baby to die or the baby to be orphaned. So she followed the beggings of the dying woman and
Mm-hmm.
took her in.
Yeah, and it's funny because the one thing I took away from this whole kind of sequence of events in the beginning of this movie was the kind of deterioration of what's considered proper at that point in Japan, and
Yeah,
maybe the world. But you had someone who was meant to fulfill his duty by killing himself, and by not doing brought great dishonor, but allowed him to survive. You had a woman who took a baby who wasn't hers, and instead of giving it up, and or trying to find who was related to it, decided to do what was right by her and take care of it. And you can kind of
yeah,
see, like, because Koichi's initial reaction when she had the baby and said, I don't know, does it matter who the mother is? The creature said, of course it matters. You know, that this baby isn't yours. What are you doing taking care of it? Yeah, his initial reaction is that of criticism, but then the reality is that this baby would die without her. So I feel like
Yeah.
that for both of these characters, there's like a disillusionment again that we're talking about, this disillusionment between what is normal and what should be accepted versus the human reality.
Yeah. Noriko knows that she cannot give the baby to anyone because there's no one to take care of the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And it even leads to the neighbor, Sadako, to give them rice because she's still very angry at Koichi and she's still vitriolic about it, but she's not going to let the baby die.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, okay, get the rice. Do not dare eat it because you don't need it. But she gives them the rice.
Yeah.
So they can help Akiko the baby survive. And we go into a montage in which we see them getting closer as a family. We see Akiko grow and we see them regrow.
Yes.
And I think it's a very important moment because we show a moment of bliss and happiness, and that in the face of horrible things, people can find joy.
Yeah. And honestly, I was enjoying this sequence. I found myself actually thinking, like, I wouldn't mind watching a movie that was just about this, you know? I was enjoying it a lot. You know, I actually kind of almost forgot that Godzilla was involved in this at all.
And you were like, oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Look how big Akiko is.
Yeah, literally. And when it got to the minesweeping thing as well, I thought that was fun.
Yes.
Actually, that's equally one of my favorite parts of the movie is
I love the the minesweeping crew,
yeah.
which is perfect because they come next. Because the next thing we see is Koichi very happily telling Noriko that he has a job, and he's so happy,
Mm-hmm.
and he's so like excited because they're gonna be able to feed themselves, and it's gonna help Akiko, and it's gonna help Noriko, and but she's like, okay, but how are you sure that it's good? And he's like, well, it's minesweeping, and she's not happy about it because she's afraid he will die. Because Noriko, as a character, is there to tell us that people need to survive, that people deserve to survive, and she's survival represented, especially with what happens at the end of the movie.
Yes.
Like, if Godzilla is damaged, Noriko is survival.
Yeah, exactly.
But we meet the mining exploding crew, and they are like the typical rat tab of like weirdos.
Yeah. One
we
thing
have
though,
the kid, who is a very gone finished puberty guy who's obsessed with the military and is still part of the propagandized youth. Yes. Whose character arc is realizing you don't want to be part of the military.
Yeah. The war is never good. Conflict isn't something to aspire to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have the captain, who is just a rugged man who's always saying what he thinks and getting into trouble, but you can see that he has a good heart. And then you have the doctor with amazing hair.
Yeah. Dr. Noda, is that right?
Yeah, Dr. Noda. And he's like, hi, I have the most amazing hair.
Yeah.
In the movie. And he's just there, fluffy. And yeah, they are meant to just find bombs and shoot them up.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, you see Koichi is very closed off. He even has a scuffle with the kid, who the kid is like, oh, it's so sad that the war ended so soon because I wanted to participate. And Koichi's like, you better be fucking joking. And everyone scorns the kid. They call him a stupid. Like, the captain hits him in the head. Like, what the fuck are you thinking about? Yeah,
exactly. Use your brain. One thing that I love about my favorite thing was when Koichi is trying to comfort Noriko and saying, no, look, the boat is built with anti-magnetic mine technology. And then he goes to see the boat and it's a wooden boat.
Yes. And there's a scientific reason for it, but
it makes sense. Like... It makes sense, but it's just hilarious. Like you think, okay, this is going to be an advanced boat to help protect us against mines. No, it's just made of wood, so mines aren't attracted to it.
And he's like, okay, that's not great.
Yeah.
But you kind of fall into like a false sense of security until like the the montage ends and you have them all celebrating that they were able to rebuild the house when they all are praising. The movie can be a very gender rolly patriarchal in some ways, and I don't know if it's just representing how society would have been,
Yeah.
or it's just the author not giving it much more thought. But they're praising Noriko for being a great housewife, and she says, "No, no, no, I'm not a wife. I'm not a wife." And they look at Koichi like, "Okay, when are you putting a ring on it? What are you talking about?" And he's dismissive. He tells Akiko not to call him dad, which everyone is like, "Dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's mean."
Yeah. That was a
Nobody
little.
cares that nobody cares that he's not Akiko's biological dad. They're like, "You are her dad now."
Yeah, exactly. Like whatever about like that was one thing. Whatever about not marrying Noriko, fine. But yeah, when she said when she said when you said that I'm not your dad to Akiko, that I was like, ah, no, dude, come on. Like I know you're traumatized and stuff, but don't say that to the toddler. Come on,
Yeah, let the baby be.
let the baby be. But yeah, I don't know. I think because it I feel like it might have been disingenuous to make it too modern in a sense because this was the reality of the time. But
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know which is which.
yeah, because at the same time, like I see what you mean because there was kind of like there was a focus on it. Like it wasn't just this is the way it is. It was more so like I don't know like Koichi is a weird guy for not marrying for not
This perfect woman.
yeah um
She's pretty. She's nice. She's good at being a housewife.
yeah like
But
I so
Koichi cannot marry her. He's pulling everyone aside, and he has a nightmare, and he freaks out. There's a scene that is a bit uncomfortable when he gets on top of Noriko, but I don't think it's supposed to look like he's assaulting her. He's
no
just like, "Please help me. Tell me that you're real." And she's like, "You're freaking me out."
yeah
And it
he
happens again, and she's like, "Yes, you're real. I am real. Akika's real. If we, I don't care that you're a kamikaze who didn't go through. If you survive the war, you were meant to be alive, and you have to stay alive."
yeah and I like because he was about to do the thing like how would you know and then Noriko was like yeah because I fucking watched my parents die in the fire bombings like it was and what I like is that he didn't really fight it he kind of listened to what you said and kind of relented and he's like you're right you you suffered and had
Yeah.
this experience that is equally as traumatizing now of course Godzilla notwithstanding that's kind of a different situation but I mean
Yeah,
the war he was not he he wasn't he's not the only person who the war affected at the end of the day. And I think he realized that as soon as she said it. And I think
yeah,
he kind of
totally.
took it in, which I thought was a nice touch.
And he wants it, and that's the saddest part, and the part that like Godzilla is also PTSD in a way.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. And not to jump around, but I feel like the best Godzilla movies, and this is something that I noticed while watching this one, the best Godzilla movies are the kind of movies where you could actually kind of take Godzilla out of them, as weird as it sounds, and replace him with like a theme. It'll be weird, but the movie would still kind of make sense because Godzilla
The
is
conduit.
yeah he's exactly and in this case I think Godzilla was war, so you could easily take Godzilla and just put in some scenes of battles and war,
Mhm.
and the movie would still kind of make some degree of sense, barring, of course, like the whole thing when they're fighting Godzilla towards the end. Um,
But yeah, and that's the tragedy. Like he was about to get his happy ending, but him talking about how he doesn't want to marry Noriko leads to her wanting to get a job the next day. So
mhm.
she gets a job so he can eventually marry someone because Noriko is like, well, if you don't want me, I'll eventually leave
Yeah,
because we
to
have to
live my
move
own
on.
life, and so you can live your life. Like it doesn't make sense for us not to progress in any kind of relationship and just live together. Like we both want to progress in our lives. So
But he's still stuck. But you see that he's about to think. He looks at the photos of his parents and like, maybe it's okay for me to move on. And
yeah,
then Godzilla comes back.
fucking Godzilla.
They they specifically refer to Bikini Atoll.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like Godzilla comes back with like nuclear things happen in the Auto Island after the nuclear bombs were dropped, maybe, or about when it's about to drop, and then on Bikini Atoll. After that, he reawakens and he starts creating massive destruction. And that's in like you see the like little boat, and they find that massive ship completely completely destroyed, and they're like, what the fuck are we supposed to do with this?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. With the 30 millimeter gun and two sea mines.
Yeah.
They were expected to fight Godzilla, and then they found out that we're just meant to distract them until the bigger boat comes, the destroyer.
And that's
Um,
something that they are angry at, and especially the captain starts complaining, like, yeah, of course the Japanese government is using us as bait. Of course they don't care about us.
yeah,
We're just a little guy.
one.
And then the doctor is surprised that he's going to do it.
Mhm.
And he says, like, well, I might not like the government, but I am not gonna let people die.
Yeah, exactly. That was nice. The captain is like that. He's very pragmatic in that way. Like he's
Yeah,
like, I hate the government, but I care about people, and I'm
the
gonna
people. Yeah.
defend them. One thing that I liked his line though, I think it reflects a lot of the pessimism, actually modern pessimism, not just Japanese, but I'd say with the world. Is he has a line saying, "This country never changes. I wonder if it even can,"
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
thought is very interesting because I think, honestly, I think that's a reflection of a lot of people's mindset towards their respective country because we're seeing repetition upon repetition and negativity building on negativity regardless of where. I don't want to say what countries I'm immediately coming to mind, but yeah, I thought that was a really poignant line and I can see why it was given some focus.
Totally. I completely agree with you there. And and they try their best, and they try to use the mines to like explode Godzilla, but it doesn't work. Even when it gets in Godzilla's mouth, and Koichi is finally able to shoot at Godzilla, which shows that he maybe now has a reason to fight because he's not fighting for Imperial Japan, but he's fighting to protect this newfound family he's found, not only with Noriko and Akiko, but with the fucking weirdos in this boat he has.
Yeah.
And the bomb explodes, and they think we did it, and they see him regenerate. And
Mm.
just the faces of fear of like getting ready to die are horrific, and that's when they are rescued by the bigger ship that also gets absolutely destroyed, but Godzilla has to. Oh yeah, it gets destroyed because Godzilla uses his.
His his laser beam breath weapon thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
and he
they
has to go rest.
yeah, and then he has to it's interesting because it's the most. I'm trying to think. Maybe in Shin Godzilla it was like that too, but it's kind of typically when you see Godzilla, the point is that he's not very well able to be harmed.
No,
But you see in this case, he can be harmed. It's just a very specific way, and the problem is he regenerates very quickly. I wonder, is that intentional? Um, Now, to be fair, it's easy for us to say that everything was an intention for a message, and maybe it's just they wanted to show that they could impact Godzilla early. But there is a certain amount of like, if you look at Godzilla in this movie as like an analog to war, that
mm,
a war can be fought and can be stopped, but it comes back. Maybe that's what they're trying to say with this Godzilla, that you can
maybe
injure it, you can stop it for temporary, but it'll regenerate itself because there'll always need to be more war.
if you also take the idea that it's mirroring Koichi's PTSD and trauma, the trauma has not been resolved yet. So of course, maybe you can stop it for a second, but it's gonna regenerate.
Maybe that could be it.
So this movie would have ended sooner if we got Koichi into some nice meds.
Yeah, Koichi gets some fucking Xanax or
Maybe
herbs.
they should give. If only they had oxytocin for Shin Godzilla. Um,
Oxytocin. They needed to just dope everyone up and they would have been fine.
yeah,
Koichi
but
smokes a big spliff and Godzilla disappears. It's that meme of that meme picture of Matthew McConaughey smoking the fucking cigarette. We get
oh
Koichi
god.
smoking up.
And he's like, oh my god, I want to marry Noriko, and Godzilla's no longer here. Everything's wonderful.
Everything's fine.
Akiko, you're still not my toaster.
Yeah. Oh, one
No, but
question, quick production note.
yeah,
Was some of the crying scenes with Akiko CGI? Some of the
I
ways
don't
that she cried seemed kind of uncanny, and I don't know. Was it because they couldn't get the child actress to cry, which I maybe is understandable? So did they CGI the face on the baby too? I don't
let
know.
me
But did
let
you
me
feel
quick.
like that too? Was it just me?
I felt that they were weird, but it felt more like they were just with the camera
Maybe that
waiting
was it.
for her to cry.
Maybe they just cut to the scene, so it was.
Yeah, so I think that was awkward. They were just waiting for Akiko to cry.
Hmm,
Because toddlers cry very easily.
that's
So
true.
it felt like something would happen, and then you would see the actors a bit like awkwardly waiting, and then she would cry.
I see a subreddit here saying, "Is anyone going to talk about how unprofessional the baby was in Godzilla Minus One?" Oh god, that baby was so unprofessional.
I think they should ban her.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other sad part is that now Godzilla's back, and Koichi cannot let go, and he does not want to to move on, and that pushes Noriko to find a job in the Ginza district,
Mm,
and that's where Godzilla attacks.
yeah. Oh.
That scene was so scary. I loved
It
it.
was good, and it was again like it was probably one of the most like you don't often see the direct impact of the kind of on the ground impact of the Godzilla attacks. You see the explosions, and you even see him. He's attacked trains in other movies, but
he
he
loves trains.
he loves trains, but he's autistic. Um,
Yes, he walks. He has the autistic walking pose.
yeah,
Um,
but you
just
see,
for the people in the comments, I can make that joke. I
yeah,
am autistic and I walk like
yeah, I
that.
yeah,
It's a thing.
but yeah, you see the Noriko in the train,
Yes.
hanging from poles and landing in the water. Like the it was a very cool scene. It
Yes.
actually, I think maybe in this case they might have taken bits from maybe the more contemporary Godzilla movies, the kind of more
Yes.
bombastic Hollywood style, and then they kind of said, okay, well this is fun, and this is kind of what you need to kind of tell the story of Godzilla attacking people at this more intimate level. You need to show the destruction at this level, so this is how we
Yeah,
do
because
it.
the director was offered a Godzilla movie in 2005, but he said no because the technology is not there yet. So he was clearly very excited to use the CGI in a good way. They
Mm.
even won the Oscars for best CGI.
Yeah, I can see it. It was very good.
Yeah.
Um,
Apparently there was controversy because they were accused of like, well, the budget was not that big, which means that the CGI team was mistreated because Japanese mistreats its workers. And he's like, no, no, we tried to work hard, but there was no working on the weekends. We had a kitchen on the place to make sure that people could take rest. There were almost no late nights, and I don't know. It feels very weird to be like Japanese has problems with work culture, so all Japanese people are the same.
yeah, I mean that's it is kind of a funny thing to assume budget, based on a budget reading.
Yeah,
Um, I like, of course, they do have an issue. They have like as a nation, I know that is a problem. They
yeah.
even say themselves, but you can't just assume that's the reason for a budgetary issue. That's kind of funny. I don't know how I feel about that.
To me, it felt weird and like trying to dismiss the work that it was put on, almost.
Oh, okay. So is this like some like maybe do you think there's an agenda there to say like, well, of course the CGI is good. They overworked their people, so no,
Maybe
like if we like if is that kind of like
I
the games industry shitting on Elden Ring kind of a thing where I don't know if you're aware of this, but when Elden Ring came out, it was very obviously it was very praised, um, but there's a lot of games people working in the games industry for larger companies like EA and Ubisoft and stuff who were criticizing Elden Ring, saying, "Ah, yeah, but like you couldn't make this nowadays, or it's making all these wrong choices, and they overwork their staff and stuff like that." Kind of
I
excusing their own
yeah
shitty games, saying, "Well, no one like this who treats their people well could make a game like this." Do you think that's
I
kind of the
don't
logic?
I don't know exactly because apparently there was a lot of discussions about the budget because people could not believe that it was so cheap
Mm,
and relatively cheap.
yeah,
And I think
compared to other
part
movies,
of
yeah.
it was just dismissing and misunderstanding how Japan works with movies. Like that, there is an issue, and it's okay to raise the question, but I feel like it was so weirdly targeted to this movie instead of trying to talk about like the issue really like so I don't know why they got fixated on that, but
Yeah,
it became a point like that the author, I keep calling him the author, but the creator of this movie, the triple threat,
yeah,
Yamazaki, was like, no, we tried hard, and the company that we work with, it prouds themselves on not being a black company, because a black company is a company that overworks its staff.
I see. Yeah, I feel like there's a certain amount of like again, I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but I just from what you're telling me, I feel like there needs to be some understanding too that just because something costs X amount in Hollywood doesn't mean it's going to be equitable in another country, because in Hollywood you have unions to deal with, you have very high salaries. Not that salaries aren't high in Japan for leading talent, but at the same time, like it's not comparable. You're not spending
No,
multiple millions on one actor. You know?
and maybe it would be good for Japan to have more union to make sure that everyone gets paid as much. But part of it is, yeah, it's just cheaper to do it in Japan.
Yeah,
Also, this guy had made like was in three roles. That already makes the movie so much cheaper.
exactly.
You know
Yeah,
what I
that's
mean?
true too. Like you say, the triple threat.
Yeah. But back to the movie, I think this scene really exemplifies how Noriko is going to survive. She wants to survive. Is going to fight. She has on the train, and she only drops herself when she sees the water, and you can see that she's scared completely out of her mind.
Mm-hmm. No, she
And
is.
then yeah, and then she's like running through the streets, and she gets pushed as people panic, and we see reporters talking about Godzilla getting killed as a callback to the first movie. We see a mother hugging a child, thing also as a callback to the first movie,
Yes,
and we just see the devastation.
you do, and it is funny the little things that were direct references to the original movie, like those reporters on the
Mm-hmm.
building saying he's coming right towards us and then being killed. Um, it's it was a fun watch, to be honest, to see Godzilla doing essentially what he did in the first movie, but with this much higher budget. With this
And
much
meaner.
with the technology being that much better. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I also want to call out how fucking cool Godzilla's breath weapon is in this movie.
Yes.
The way he charges with his scales like protruding out at every step along his
Yes.
spine. That's awesome.
And I think Koichi and Godzilla being kind of mirrors of trauma makes a lot of sense because he tries to help Noriko when once he hears that Godzilla is on the attack, and but he makes it worse because he freezes again, and Noriko pushes him away to save him, and we see Noriko being swept away by the explosion after the nuclear blast, and then we see the radioactive rain, and Koichi finally is able to face Godzilla roaring back to him.
Yeah, exactly. It took away that last thing that just gave him nothing to lose, and you see it after that, and he's like a man who wants to die because that was the last thing he didn't want to lose was, or the thing that was signifying to him new life is now gone. One interesting thing, well, two things actually I want to talk about in this, and let me know what you think. So clearly, like again, you can't get away from nukes and Godzilla. Like his breath weapon here is clearly a nuke because he fires or at least the design is meant to evoke that imagery. Like he fires the exactly. He creates the mushroom cloud. There's the rain, the nuclear rain that you talk about. The shock wave that comes from the explosion is very evocative of any footage of a nuclear bomb. So again, Godzilla nukes very much intertwined. But one thing I also want to call out, and it's really interesting, is Noriko she sacrificed herself in this scene for Koichi. Again, like you say, this woman who really wanted to live, she held on to the train. She was in a train that was picked up by Godzilla and still clung to survival. But she sacrificed it in this point. She didn't jump in behind the building to save herself. She pushed Koichi into a building and let herself be blasted away by the shockwave. And I think you kind of see what the movie is trying to say is that you can sacrifice, or that sacrifice can be noble in a sense if it's for the right reasons.
Yes. And I think that's the movie's what's trying to tell you, like, sacrifice is okay, but you should try to avoid it at all costs, and you should do it for a good reason.
The other thing I think is also kind of turns it on its head a little bit, and I hope this isn't offensive, but the fact that it does kind of turn the trope on its head, the fact that it's a woman sacrificing themselves for the ex-soldier, for the man, because in most media, the soldier is expected to be expendable, and to be fair, that's what they sign up for. And Noriko is a civilian, so again, by both sensibilities at the time and in modern sensibilities, it should be Koichi sacrificing himself for Noriko. But Noriko cared for Koichi, and she saw him as worth her own life to sacrifice for. And I think again, it hammers home that idea that that love is something that's worth fighting for, and maybe especially so, life that's worth holding on to. It's equally worth fighting and giving up your all for. In this case, she gave her all for Koichi because she saw him as something worth saving.
Yeah, and I think it's playing on, like, it's her telling him one last time, you were meant to survive.
Yeah.
It's her forcing him to survive, which makes what happens later so much, like, frustrating, because what happens afterwards is that everyone is extremely depressed. Everyone is heartbroken. Koichi is shell-shocked. He's not speaking.
Yeah.
The neighbor is doing her best to help with Akiko, but they're not telling her what's happening, because how the fuck do you tell that poor girl?
Yeah, she's a toddler,
Yeah, she's a toddler. She's not going to understand.
Yeah.
So she's, like, barely hanging on to anything, and Koichi's completely numb. So when the next scene after the funeral, you see that a group of ex-military people, not by the government, but by a citizens' initiative, reunites, you already know what Koichi is about to do.
Yeah. I like a lot of this kind of fallout from this event. One, I think emotionally, I felt very, very sad when I saw Akiko asking where her mom is. That's a very tough thing to watch. and they didn't know how to respond. The other thing is like, when you talk about the civilian-led initiative, um, there's like this. It's like it's the disillusionment, because Japan before would have been, military come in, do this now because we're the military. You're now all part of our armed forces. But at this point, it was a military leader who had his hat in his hand, saying, "Look, we need your help, and we're not going to force you. You don't have to. This
Not
is
in
just
order.
yeah." But it made me kind of think about even in modern times, there's this narrative in a lot of countries that the military is this amorphous thing that exists to defend civilians. The reality is the military is made of civilians, and it's this idea that the civilians owe their lives to the military, or the civilians owe something to the military, when in reality the military owes everything to the civilians, because that's who are soldiers,
That's what they're using.
That's what they're using. The military wouldn't exist without the civilians to make up its soldiers, its operators, its everything, you know? And I thought that was an interesting kind of, I don't know if that was the intention of these scenes, but it's certainly what I came away with,
Well, definitely, because basically this scene, we're kind of walking around it, is after this, Dr. Goodhair tells Koichi, "Hey, we're doing a meeting, some ex-military people." He has great hair.
Dr. L'Oreal.
And yes, and he tells him, "Do you want to come?" And it's revealed that Dr. Noda is way more important than he let on, and he's leading an initiative to kill Godzilla.
Yeah.
The government is not going to help because they are afraid that the US or the Soviets would react badly to them.
Yeah. Once again, you're seeing Japan being in a kind of always being in a multinational kind of context, But at least in this time, they're not really saying, "America, help us." They're saying like, "Yeah, no, we're on our own," pretty much, which is what I thought was very interesting.
And they're alone with the government, and they basically make a plan, which the plan sounds so silly. So silly.
Yeah.
Like, I know the science behind it, but the plan is to bubble up Godzilla so he goes to the bottom of the sea.
Yeah, and the pressure would crush him, essentially.
And if not, they're going to bring him up with floaties to give him decompression sickness, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, like to force the bends on him, essentially, like.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, is that going to work? And this I appreciate, because it is them not lying like the government did. It's Dr. Noda being like, "I don't know, but it's the best we have."
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
they've seen that weapons don't really work and that he regenerates. So what are they meant to do other than this?
Yeah, they want to kill him from the inside, and I think this is a very important scene, because that's the scenes that lead to the thesis of the movie. The military is like, the ex-military, the veterans are like, "Why would we join? We don't want to die." And some of them leave, and the movie does not portray them as cowards or selfish. You understand what they leave.
Yeah.
But one guy says, is it certain death? And Dr. Noda is like, "No, we are going to try to do this without anyone dying." And he just laughs and says, "Well, it sure beats the military." And he joined. And then a very hot ex-soldier, very tall with a mustache.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I was like, where's this model all of a sudden? Like, he's like, "Well, we have to do something, right?" But jokes aside, like, this scene is them being like, "Well, we hate that we have to fight again, but this time we'll do it right." And they start talking about doing it right. This is a fight that they're going to fight for something good, which is protecting themselves and trying to keep everyone alive. They're going to try to have no casualties.
Yeah. because I think that's the underlying thing, is that human life is precious. That's what
Yeah.
they're trying to say throughout the movie. Um, Even with the destruction, because I think that's part of the problem too. Not even part of the problem, but part of the thing about the other Godzillas is this kind of scale of destruction that Godzilla does, and that's kind of that kind of disaster porn aspect
Hmm.
of a lot of these movies. But with Godzilla Minus One was just saying kind of no, like this is the human element. All of these, I think they said like something like 30,000 people died in the last attack, in something along those lines, tens of thousands.
Yeah.
And here they're saying like, yeah, each one of these people themselves, yeah, they were families, they were individuals, and we we'd be failures as a society and as protagonists in this movie if we just allowed it to keep happening. We're
Yeah.
going to try to make this, we're going to try to conserve as much human life as possible at this point to kill Godzilla. We're not going to allow
Totally.
sacrifice to be, um, we're not, or rather, we're not going to allow human lives to be the currency to trade for victory, because we tried that and it led to utter disaster.
Yeah. But Koichi at this point of the movie is too lost on the darkness of having lost Noriko, of not knowing what to do with Akiko, of feeling guilty. So he, rightfully so, says, you need to give me a plane so I can shoot Godzilla to distract him. But he's
Mm-hmm.
secretly planning to turn it into a kamikaze plane and fly into the mouth of Godzilla.
Yes.
So what he does, he asks Noda to contact Tachibana, who comes back limping from the attack on Godzilla and just beats the hell out of Koichi. Like, why are you sending me thousands of letters telling me that the thing in the island was your fault? I already knew.
Well, to be fair, I think it was actually a bit more nefarious. He wrote the letters and sent it around the area where he
Okay.
was before he was stationed on the island. So
Yeah.
he wrote on the letters that it was, um, uh, he wrote on the letters that it was Tachibana's fault that all these people died.
Oh shit! I misunderstood that
Yeah, so
scene.
he said you're blaming me for this, and he's because he knew that was the only way that he would get him to respond, was because he knew he'd be so mad he'd track him
Oh
down.
Jesus!
Yeah, yeah, it was a little bit more. I actually saw that. When I saw that, I was like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck, Oichi? Like
Koichi?
Koichi, like why are you doing that? But yeah, I mean, to be fair, it worked. Um,
Yeah, totally.
yeah,
Because Tachibana does come and he explains, I need you to kamikaze a plane to defeat Godzilla.
yeah,
And he's like, oh shit. And then he joins. And I think the movie does something very smart, which it keeps you an arm's away from Tachibana. You don't know what he's thinking. You only know that he's willing to help.
hmm yeah. Although he was kind of
So,
he was kind of convinced at that moment, or at least we're led to believe he was convinced, because yeah, I say Oichi, sorry, Koichi kind of said like, yeah, look, I'm gonna do what I should have done back in the war, and fly this plane into Godzilla.
yeah, and then we see the citizens, the ex-military, trying to build, as they make a lot of plans to bring Godzilla out, and we see specifically them telling the kid he's not allowed to come because not being part of the military is something to be proud of,
Mm-hmm.
and they just get ready to fight Godzilla one last time. And that's a very tense scene because you see that at the beginning that the plan does not go well. You see that Godzilla has gone already into land. He's faster than they think, and he's attacking already. And it's just because Koichi has the plane that he can lead them back to where they were planning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you see Godzilla swim around again, very Jaws.
Yeah,
and you see that he attacks his ship, and for a second you're like, oh shit, he's attacking the ship, a lot of people are gonna die, and you realize that they made a decoy and it's a ship with no one in.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
made it on purpose.
They tied
No one
the
is gonna die.
yeah, exactly. They tied the ship's wheels like with rope to keep it on
Yeah.
course, and then yeah, so they really were like they really were as much as possible trying to preserve human life. But I think I thought it was a really nice touch, you know.
Yes.
Um,
They meant it. They meant that they were gonna fight the right way this time.
and it added a bit of tension for me then at that point because you're kind of get used to the idea like okay, people are going to die in these movies, you know, it becomes almost a part
Mm-hmm.
of the spectacle. But because they made such a point of saying we are going to try to make sure no one dies, it made me tense then because I was like, okay, well, if someone dies, it's really going to matter, you know. So
Yeah,
as a
because
viewer, it was very
mm-hmm,
interesting to see.
it would be still a failure if, like, they kill Godzilla but other people die. It would still be a failure.
Yeah.
And and they and they do the thing. They give Godzilla the water hydrogen thing to pull him to the floor.
Freon gas, I believe it was.
Freon gas. Thank you.
Because the
And they,
bubbles were
yeah,
basically made it so Godzilla would no longer make contact with the salt water or something like that, and it caused him
yeah.
to sink.
So what they do is, like, once he's used his fire weapon or his atomic ray, they sink him to the sea, but they see that it's not enough, so they start pulling, and it's gonna break when all of a sudden a bunch of small boats of fishermen and and civilians come
Mm-hmm.
to the rescue to help them with the kid on top. I think symbolizing, like, going to the military is nothing to be proud of. Fighting for other people is something to be proud of. And that
Yeah.
thing got me the first time I watched the movie. I started bawling my ass. I was like,
Yeah, no, but it is like it does have that message. Um, Humanity will fight and band together. You know, it's a nice message of unity.
yeah.
Um, and it felt very also it kind of felt very Dunkirk esque. That makes sense. I was thinking
I've
a
not
lot.
watched the movie, sadly.
So not even the movie, but in reality of what Dunkirk was. Because I haven't seen the movie either, to be honest. But
Sorry.
there's actually a stand-up comedian who talked about it, and I'll find I'll find a link to it and I'll put it in our description. But he said that Dunkirk is often largely seen wrongly as a military victory, when the reality is it was a big military failure. It was an example of the British military completely getting it wrong and relying on the civilian population to pick up the pieces and to rescue soldiers. And
Yeah.
they used civilian fishing boats and the like to run this operation from England to France to ferry soldiers home. Um, and this scene of all fishing boats all coming in to aid these military vessels reminded me of that.
Yeah, no, it's totally. It's and it also mirrors a bit in Shin Godzilla, the group of misfits. The kid screams like, "Here comes the useless,"
Yeah.
you know, and they fight and they try to push and they try to push to help pull Godzilla up. The floaties, I just keep imagining Godzilla and some cute little floaties, and it's so cute.
Oh, like those for those toddlers, the arm floaties.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just imagine him like splashing around,
I can't
but
swim.
like, I I want Guillermo del Toro to make a Godzilla movie so I can fall in love with Godzilla. No, but joking aside, that would be Pacific Rim, um, and it would be cool, probably.
Mm, I'd say so.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be. But yeah, the floaty operation breaks because he chews them. So they try to pull him. They don't have enough. So the team of the useless come and try to put Godzilla out, but it's still not enough. He was not damaged enough, and he gets ready to use his atomic ray one last time when we see Koichi flying into his mouth and exploding the plane.
Yes.
And then we're giving a flashback. We see the morning when he gets given the plane, he shows Tachibana the picture Akiko did. And he shows him the pictures, and you see that Tachibana realizes that he finally is ready to take responsibility and to fight. So he tells him, I put a release capsule in your plane. You're not going to die. I never wanted you to die. I wanted you to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think that was very important because it would have defeated the point of the movie if Koichi sacrifices himself.
Exactly. I was going to say, if he had not ejected and if he had just sacrificed himself, I would have actually called this a bad movie. In my opinion,
definitely.
Because the whole theme was building up to and showing the importance of preserving life. And for if he had just if the message of the movie at the end was you should just be a kamikaze, then it would have been fucked up. So I'm so glad that he didn't decide to do this typical. And let's be real, it's becoming common where like, oh, the main character is so selfless, he has to sacrifice himself. When he would have left behind Akiko and all this stuff, you know, it would have been awful.
Yes. I mean, the captain is telling him off the phone, I will not forgive you if you let Akiko become an orphan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And he doesn't. Because a lot of people were... I saw some people saying like, oh, I thought Tachibana was going to put a way to release him, but he was not going to know. And I think that also wouldn't have worked. Koichi needed to choose to live.
Yeah, exactly. He needed to make the active choice, because the whole time after Noriko had been killed, he himself wanted to die, and he made all these contingencies and plans to do it. But it was at the last second.
Of the day.
Huh?
Yeah.
The morning of that day, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting that the thing that brought him such shame, avoiding death in the beginning, was also the thing that saved him and made him so happy at the end. And the only thing that changed was the context.
Yeah, because he was surrounded by people who were celebrating that he was alive.
Mm-hmm.
In the original movie, when they realized that Serizawa is sacrificing himself to kill Godzilla, they all salute. But in this movie, they do not salute until they realize that Koichi is alive.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that, but that's really interesting.
Yeah, they salute Koichi when he survives. Because before that, they are all horrified. You see that they're about to cry. You see that they're about to break. And they see that he's alive. And the other scene that really, really got me, even the second time that I watched it for this movie, is when Tachibana hears on the radio that Koichi is alive, and the face of relief.
Yeah, he had a big smile and he was happy. Yeah.
Yeah, like he never wanted Koichi to die.
No, of course, because at the end of the day, it makes sense. Like, what good does Koichi dying? It doesn't bring these men who were his friends back. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't even give him revenge, because, again, I think with all these years that went by, he realized that it wasn't really Koichi's fault that these men died. Because, again, the gun wouldn't have done anything. But still, the fact that, you know, it was a...
Didn't try.
Yeah, he didn't try. But it was a really nice moment. You're right, when he kind of was listening to the radio and heard that he survived and he was happy. It was a nice moment. And then the happiest moment probably comes after. I'll let you say.
Yeah, because we see before that the neighbor gets money and gets things to take care of Akiko, and she's horrified because she also doesn't want anymore. Like, she doesn't want Koichi to die anymore. She was just hurt after her kids died in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden, she gets a telegram, and she looks shocked. And the audience is like, wait, what is the telegram? What is the telegram? And she runs, and she gives the telegram to Koichi, who also looks shocked. And I told you, listeners, that Noriko is survival, so she could not have died.
Yeah.
She was not meant to die. I know that some people thought it was melodramatic or it wasn't deserved, but I think she was not meant to die. It would have defeated the movie. She said, all of those who survive are meant to survive. And she meant it. Because now that
Absolutely.
she has come back, sorry?
No, no, sorry, I said absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's still alive. It's revealed that now that some days have happened after the disaster in Ginza and she is awake, she has been able to give her information and she was recognized, like she was identified as Noriko. And Koichi runs with Akiko to her and she asked him, is your war over? Because that was the reason why Koichi said he didn't marry Noriko because his war wasn't over. So she asked him, is your war over? And he said, yes. And you know that they're going to get their happy ending
Yeah,
until
exactly.
you see Godzilla regenerating.
Yeah, yeah, and then it didn't take
Yeah,
away from it, but it did kind of
I
lessen the
am,
moment a bit when Godzilla was
yes,
regenerating towards at the end of the movie. It cut to the chunks of him that were blown up just
speaking.
start to
Yeah.
piece back together. Now,
And I don't know how I feel because the sequel will follow them again and I feel like their story's over. I was excited for the sequel, but I was hoping it would be 10, 20, 30, 40, however many years later because I think Koichi's story is over. His war was over. So I don't
yeah.
know what they're going to do in the sequel.
Oh, so that the sequel is literally going to follow the same characters?
Seems like it, but we don't
Hmm.
know that much yet.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that. Like again, that's what I thought. That was kind of how I reckon. Okay, that kind of changes the context of how I enjoyed the movie now. To be honest with you, um,
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens.
yeah, because I came away from it thinking that was nice. Godzilla might come back, but I figured like they're not gonna bring him back right away because that would kind of they really made it so that there was a message, and that message was through Koichi getting his happy ending that and humanity and survival is the most important thing and it's worth everything
Mm,
for, you know. um, we have a right and responsibility to survive for others, you know. We don't have the right
yes.
to just sacrifice ourselves for glory or for our own egos or for what a country might tell you to do. We we live for other people, and life is precious. And I thought those were the tenets that the movie was going by. And while yeah, Godzilla was regenerating, I figured okay, well he'll be regenerating, but maybe it'll be like another, like you say, 30 years or so before he comes back. Enough time for these characters to have their lives and for other characters to deal with their own issues and to deal with their own um, things that Godzilla can signify for them.
Yeah.
Because again, that's the thing about Godzilla is he's always, and in these movies at least, he's always a signifier. He's not a monster, so to speak. He's a metaphor.
Yeah.
Um,
And look,
so I don't know.
I I will take the movie as what it is. I'm not gonna let a second movie ruin what I take from this one. I
Yeah,
would prefer that they don't fuck up with this one, but we don't know yet what the movie's going to be. So for me, this is a beautiful ending, and they got their happy ending.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I mean, look, we'll see what Godzilla Minus Zero treats. What Godzilla Minus Zero will be. According to Letterboxd, follow me there, in 1949, 2 years after the tumultuous events of Godzilla Minus One, the Shikishima family face an all new calamity. So I'm a bit nervous because I want them to just have the happy ending, let it be. But I don't know what the movie's gonna be yet, you
mm.
know? So I'll let it happen. And if I don't like the second movie, then it doesn't exist. And you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
Godzilla Minus One is still a beautiful movie with a beautiful message.
yeah. I think so. I think there's a lot to be said
Yeah.
for it as a standalone movie, but also to be fair, like as because these aren't standalone movies. To be fair, they're part of a legacy, and I think it definitely did
Yeah.
justice to um, it definitely did a lot of justice to the Godzilla name, and it changed enough in terms of its focus that honestly I thought was really, it was a lot of fun, to the point where I'd say it's probably my favorite of the three.
Yeah, it's definitely mine, and I have watched this before this video. Like I watched it a year ago with my girlfriend. We just watched it. We loved it. We said, "Oh, we'll get into Godzilla," and we never did. So this episode was great to get into Godzilla because we were able to watch some things.
Yeah, no, I think it was a lot of fun. Um, yeah, definitely this is my favorite, Godzilla
Yeah,
Minus One, followed by the original, and then last, but not because it was bad, just in terms of my own preference. I think Shin Godzilla was came third, but still it was excellent.
and I wonder if Shin Godzilla can be enjoyed more as a Japanese person because it's so chaotic that like reading the subtitles get very tiresome.
Yeah, that could be the case, and also
Like,
they have the lived experience of that reality
mm-hmm.
of that event. You know, there's a context there that we're missing. Even though we can know about it, we can't really have that same connection to it. So maybe that's it. Maybe a Japanese person might enjoy Shin Godzilla that much more because they'll recognize it all. You know.
Yeah, definitely. And look, this was very fun. Okay. And I think I really like Godzilla because it has that joy of being like a fun big monster with a cool design, sometimes cute, sometimes terrific, sometimes silly, sometimes beautiful. And it tells you a lot about fear and war and trauma. And I love layered horror. I love layered things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Godzilla is definitely something that I think people do not give enough credit unless they've seen enough Godzilla movies. Especially because maybe American movies sometimes simplify it a bit too much.
Yeah, I
But
think
like
so.
Godzilla is the trauma of an entire nation and the reckoning of an entire nation. Again, there are Godzilla movies that tackle guilt and anger to what Japan did. So like Godzilla is very weird. There's also a movie in which Godzilla gets a child and he's fucking ugly. Um, but for now, I think we've fought enough. I feel like Koichi at the end of the movie. I am done. Maybe in November when the sequel comes, we can do a standalone episode on the sequel. But I don't think we're going to talk about Godzilla for a while.
No, I don't think so. I think we can let it rest for a little while, let it regenerate. Um,
Yes, exactly.
but I will say that this has been a lot of fun. I certainly, as someone who didn't know a lot about Godzilla, came away with a new appreciation. I think that no one, Godzilla is the one of the OGs, and I don't think anyone has done monster fiction quite like Godzilla and some of its better sequels. Although if I'm wrong, let us know.
Yeah,
Give us some,
recommend us things.
yeah, recommend us things because we're always open
Give us
to
some
trying
good
new things.
kaiju.
Yeah, but don't avoid things about Cthulhu.
Yeah, the
For
boss. Yeah, we have a very specific list of allowed movies about the boss because he knows best.
yes,
He knows
and
best.
yeah, and I'd rather avoid the whispers if I can, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And so, after 5 hours of recording, campers, this is the end of our first Godzilla episodes. We probably will talk about Godzilla again, maybe once Godzilla Minus Zero comes out, maybe once the boss lets us talk about kaiju battles, because that's something that I
Mm.
think will be so fun, but we have to convince him. But for now, I think it's time we rest. I think it's time all of you go back to your little cabins.
And don't put your head under the covers because the boss doesn't like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We don't want a repeat incident.
No, I was scrubbing the floorboard for weeks. It's not fun.
Bye bye.
Bye.